All right, so tonight we're a little ahead of the game. We're actually making homemade sloppy joes, but I'm a little ahead of the game. But I've already sautéed all the onions and the garlic and the bell peppers. We're a little ahead of the game tonight. Normally, I would actually just make it one by one, but we're gonna get ahead of the game. I've already got everything over there for the sloppy joes. Tonight we're gonna do. I'm just doing the garlic and the ground beef. So I'm sorry I'm a little behind the game tonight. My friend Brian did want to help, but I thought I need to catch up. So watch. Ready? All right, just watch through video. I'll explain it later and I'll dictate it later. All right, cool? Go. Tonight's going to be a play-by-play. Just no audio, but just video. Alright, so the catch-up on the video is, tonight I've changed up the video a little bit. I've sauteed everything as far as the green peppers, the onions, sauteed garlic, and I sauteed it first, and I've actually put the memory sauce into it. And I've got 20% ground beef, 50% fat. You need that. You need like actual high fat, low fat as far as fat. Now, unfortunately, all right, you can see a little bit of it. All right, I'll show you. So you need 20% fat, 17 low fat. So I've got a little ahead of myself tonight. I kind of sauteed everything. Now it's very simple. This is just sloppy joe, garlic, onions, and bell peppers. I got a little ahead of myself tonight. I didn't really think about it because I'm listening to my headset in the back. So then you want 80-20 ground beef. All right, so you want to, before you put it in the pan, you want to put a lot of onions. You want to put a lot of garlic powder, a lot of onion powder. Before you mix it first. And this is a cast iron skillet, which is very high heat. So you want to make sure that you actually swash it with, I did olive oil. You can use any oil, but you want to make sure that you heat the pan at the highest heat, so you get a good saute. Now I did it already earlier, so I'm a little behind myself, but you're gonna give it like about 10 minutes to sort of season by itself, okay? And then tonight I put a little bit of olive oil. You can use butter. You can swash it around any way you want. I prefer a little bit of olive oil. In any other dish, I would use butter. But tonight we're just doing vegetable oil because that's all I have. So you put it on high heat. So what happens is it's going to have an instant crust. I slowed mine down a little bit because I had to take a step back. But now I take a spatula and I actually sort of crush it down. I sort of symmetry it down like this. I separate it like this. You don't have to, but it does make a particular point. It separates all the meats. It's not necessarily like seared because I wasn't really paying attention, but normally I would do it just like this. And the reason why I do it that way is because it sort of breaks up all the meat. And then, once it's completely concealed the entire pan, you want to flatten it out. Because then it all has the same symmetricness in the pot, right? And then when you flip it, it's very easy. You're just gonna like molliate it. Look how beautiful that is. Isn't that amazing? Now tonight, I'm actually filming this myself because my friend Brian was too lazy and didn't want to do it. So it's gonna look a little grainy, but so you leave it on high, And that way you get a flat. Now this is a cast iron skillet. This is not my cast iron skillet. This is the skillet of the house. Normally the cast iron skillet, the reason why you want to use it because it inducts. When you heat it up completely, if you want to make a grilled cheese or something else, you don't have to heat it up. You just heat it up on a high heat for 10 minutes and you just add a little bit of butter and it sizzles. So we're doing something a little different tonight. Now see how that's all sizzling? The point is you just want to give it a minute. But see it's bubbling? I put a tiny little bit of vegetable oil tonight. And that's gonna cook everything. It's gonna cook everything evenly. So, but you're gonna make sure you separate everything and you're gonna watch because what happens is the cooked meat is gonna be dark and the cooked meat that's not cooked is gonna be red. So you're gonna watch for that. So I just flip it. Just like this. You're gonna cook it, you're gonna flip it until all the pink meat is over with, right? And you're gonna reduce the heat because it's very high right now. I have it on super high, so you're gonna reduce it down. Reduce it down. Now normally I saute onions and other things. Tonight I tried to do something different. Tonight I thought about something different because the key of cooking is you never can expect perfection. And you always have to think you can always improve 1% more. So tonight I thought to myself, I'm going to saute the onions and the bell peppers by themselves first, add a little bit of water, and then I added the mammoth sauce, which this is what it looks like now. This is what it looks like reduced down. Now normally I cook the ground beef first and I use the oil from the ground beef. I drain it down, but tonight I thought I'm gonna flip it up a little bit. So you're just gonna stir it, see? But you're gonna continuously break it down. You're gonna consistently break it down to where everything is flat. It depends on ground beef. Depends on what you want to process. I like 80-20. I like because 80-20 is different because when you have 80-20, 80% is fat, 20% is lean. And you want 80-20 because the difference is that 20% lesser is you're gonna swat it over, but you're gonna drain it down, and 20% is gonna give you better flavor. If you do 90-10, 90-10 is not good because you're never gonna get the flavor because what's gonna happen is when I drain it, it's gonna drain down that 20% that's gonna give you 90 ultimately. Get it? Right? So you just want to saute it for a long time. Now normally, in my particular cooking, in my Italian, normally, grandmother's kitchen, normally I saute, normally I add onions, saute, which is great. But tonight I just try to deviate from something. I'm trying something new. So tonight we're going to cook this. We're going to reduce it down. I'm going to use stay there. We're going to reduce it down. Now also before I do this, just FYI. So if you're going to use the sink to dispel grease, you want to make sure it's at a the water is a very high temperature to dissolve the grease, and you're going to use your dishwasher. So you're going to turn very high water on because you want it to dissolve it. You're going to use the dishwasher because if you don't use super high heat like 120, it's going to clog your dishwasher up. Make sense? I mean, your garbage disposal. So never good. Now see how it's like, see how it's very pink? Now you can change it a little bit. You can add less oil. You can use just a regular, Teflon skillet. That's going to give you a little bit of higher heat, which is going to make the meat very crisp, like bacon. Now, I could have done that. Cast iron skillets are very complicated. I can't tell you. My grandmother's cast iron skillet. It's complicated. But they cook it at very high heat. So if you're going to use it, typically the concept is, I wouldn't even use this tonight, but it's the only skillet that's here. And it does really well, especially from cornbread, jalapeno cornbread. It does really well with pies and things like that. But you have to you have to pay so close attention to it because it will burn really quick. And you can also, if you have the right cast iron skillet, which I don't know this one. It's not mine. I'm in a Tetch kitchen, but I have my grandmother's cast iron skillet. So I could actually put the corn mix in it. It's 50 years old and put it in the oven. And it's safe to do that. You never want to use a cast iron skillet in a dishwasher. You always want to, when you get done, you always want to just wash it around with soap detergent. Don't wash it exactly. Just wash it around because you don't want to take. Now this one I don't think this one's that old. But when you have the old one like mine that's 50 years old, you want to be very careful. And if you buy a cast iron skillet at a garage sale that you don't know, there's a very simple process to it. You want to set it. And if you think it's really old, this one I would imagine, only because you see right there, that tells me that's store-bought. But if you have a really old one like I have, I'll show you later in the next cooking channel. But those are very thin. They have no cast iron. Which means you actually, if you find one that's very dry, you actually have to use oil, butter, and you have to burn it in, which means you have to actually put the oil in there and let it burn in the cast iron. It's very complicated, but they're beautiful. They're very complicated. Now, I don't use my grandmother's very much because it's very complicated and it tends to burn. But I will get my grandmother's out and I will actually show you how to do it. But you have to be very careful. And I know there's a lot of you out there in country land that feels they're fantastic, but you got to be very careful with them. You got to coat them 3 times, which means you have to coat them with olive oil and butter and put them in the oven. They have to spend an hour in the oven. You can't wash them in the dishwasher. We'll get to that later. Anyway, so, all right, now we're almost there. Almost there. All right, so now, and this is a good point, but it's very complicated. And I'm going to ask my room to do this.